Hey, how's it going, everybody? Today I'm going to be talking about Echo, which I finally watched a year after its release. Echo was the first and I believe only Marvel project to be released under the Marvel Spotlight title, and that Marvel Spotlight title was described as character-driven stories with a lesser impact on the larger MCU. I believe Echo is technically classed as a miniseries, but even with that in mind, having only 5 episodes is very strange, especially for a Marvel show. I know a lot of these MCU Marvel shows only have 6 episodes, but even still, without that 6th episode, you can definitely feel the difference. To be honest, I was never opposed to having a show about Maya, or a Marvel project that focused more on her, even a more grounded and personal one like the one that we got. But I think that the story and other aspects of the show didn't quite live up to what I would have liked to see. To me, a lot of this show looked like it was filmed in a studio, especially the action sequences. They just didn't look quite right, whether it be weird cuts and weird angles or the lighting, the special effects. Something just wasn't right in a lot of the action sequences, and I don't know what exactly to credit that to, except for maybe the lack of budget. This show had a third of the budget that a show like Secret Invasion had, so maybe they just had to work with what they had. But whatever the case may be, a lot of the action sequences in Echo broke the illusion for me, just because they didn't look as convincing as they do in other Marvel projects. And speaking of breaking the illusion, there was one particular scene in Echo that reminded me of Madam Web, because the ADR was so bad, you could tell that they had to go dub it over in the studio, and it wasn't even really close. Thankfully, it was just this one scene, and it wasn't the entire project like Madam Web, so Madam Web still reigned supreme with bad ADR, but this show did have just one bad moment of that, and I'll play it right here. Let me know what you think.
Okay, so here's what I'm thinking. So you grab the money and then...
I did enjoy the cast of Echo. I think that for the most part, everybody did a pretty good job. Some did a better job than others, but I think overall it was fine. The acting was good. I think that a lot of actors and actresses didn't really get to shine in this show, though. I think a lot of that is due to the show being shorter, and so characters aren't written to have as much dialogue as they would have otherwise, or as many scenes as they would have otherwise. Some characters, are just smaller and not as important. But I think that the cast did good with what they had to work with. I would have liked to get a little bit more out of different characters, but with a 5-episode show, there's really only so much you can do, especially when these characters aren't our main character or not our main villain. There's only so much you can get out of some characters. I thought it was really cool that this show brought back Andrew Howard and Thomas E. Sullivan and gave them roles in the MCU, because both of those actors had played roles before in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., so it's just cool to have them back in Marvel and playing new characters. Also, and I didn't realize this while watching, but Devery Jacobs, who plays Bonnie in this show, is the voice of Kahori in What If. So that's just something that I appreciate that this show did. I'm glad that we were able to bring in actors and actresses who are in our, extended universe in terms of Marvel. They're not in the main MCU. I'm glad that we were able to bring those people in to the main MCU to play new characters. Overall, I did have a decent time watching this show, but it never really hooked me like other Marvel projects do. I think that only having 5 episodes to tell the story did not help in this situation whatsoever. I'm not even that big of a fan of the 6-episode format that the MCU normally goes with. I would prefer 8 or 9 episodes to be the standard for an MCU show, but only having 5 is kind of ridiculous. And I know that there was supposed to be a 6th episode for this show, but behind the scenes issues forced them to cut basically an entire episode out of the plot. And so I don't really know how that affected the story. I don't know how that affected, the show as a whole, really, but I felt it. I felt like there was something missing in this show. I saw the vision that they went for. I can see what they were trying to do, but it just felt incomplete to me. It just felt like there was something missing. While there are some aspects of this show I can really appreciate, I think that my criticisms and my critiques of this series outweigh the things that I can say they did really well. I think my biggest criticism is just that. It feels like there's a piece of the puzzle missing. and that kind of contributes to a lot of my other critiques. With Echo being a grounded and personal story, I am curious to see how much of this story, if any, will have an impact on other MCU shows or movies or anything like that. It's gonna have a little bit of a Daredevil tie-in. This leads into that a little bit in terms of Kingpin's character, I guess. But other than that, I'm curious to see if it will have any impact, or if any of these characters introduced in this show will make an appearance or even be referenced in future Marvel projects. Another thing that makes me curious is, with Echo not being the most successful MCU project in terms of viewership or reception, I wonder if Marvel will continue these Marvel Spotlight miniseries, or if this is going to be the only one. And if there is another one, I wonder how long it will be and what character it would even be about. But I guess that's something we'll get to when we get there, if we get there. But yeah, that's all I've got to say about Echo. If you've seen this show, what did you think of it? I guess miniseries, not really show. I don't know. Are miniseries shows? I guess so. But yeah, if you want to help me out here on YouTube, liking this video, commenting on this video, subscribing to the channel, checking out some of my other videos, all those things help me grow the YouTube channel. And yeah, I would appreciate it. But yeah, until next time, bye.